kiddos, it's Sunday. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Scharnemober. I am a horror author who lives in Northern Illinois. If you've been here for a while, hello and welcome back, and thank you so much for hanging out with me again. This week I just wanted to do a relatively regular update video, but I'm going to splice it together with the extra Project WriteTube video I did. So I'm going to add in a little bit of that stuff and then we'll get to the update. I made the wrong Project WriteTube video. I missed my date because I missed a message. So on the 5th I was in New Orleans and I did not make my video, and that's when I was supposed to really make my video, but I made a mistake and there you go. So when I went to record my video for this week, which is when I moved it to, I looked at the wrong video topic. And when I looked at the wrong video topic, I recorded a whole video on that, and then I ran it through Handbrake, which I do to straighten my frame rates out because I record on a camera that has a variable frame rate, and I can't turn that off. But so I went ahead and recorded this video, and then I looked and I had it all ready to go, and then I looked before I edited it and I was like, oh, that's not the topic I'm supposed to do. So I just sat on the video and I figured I would go ahead and post it with another one of my videos. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with this video. We're going to talk a little bit about reasons I think you should do NaNoWriMo, whether or not you necessarily love the idea or if you don't think you're going to finish or whatever. I don't necessarily think that writing 50,000 words in the month is necessarily the goal, as much as I think improving your writing and getting into a writing groove, as it were, is more of the goal of NaNoWriMo. So I think that it's more important that you kind of get yourself a writing habit than it is that you write 50,000 words strictly. There's a lot of support for people who are doing different things and for people who are editing and writing and just, you know, doing world building, all of those things. You can get the support that you might want during the month of NaNoWriMo, and maybe make some friends who you've never met before. I myself have done NaNoWriMo somewhere between 12 and 14 years. It is something that I really enjoy doing. I frequently finish something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's usable. I do usually hit the 50,000 word goal, but there have been several stories that I finished during NaNoWriMo and I was just like, well, it was more of a writing exercise than it was of a completion of a novel. And that's okay too. No writing that you do is really useless. You're always going to learn something from it. You're always going to experience something from it that you might not experience unless you did it. So I don't think that there's much loss in writing. You might not be able to use it the way you would want to use it, but I think that's still useful whether or not that's the case. Don't freak out. Remember that at the end of the day, this is really a challenge with yourself. You don't owe this to anyone. You don't answer to anyone except yourself on this. So don't put yourself in a position where you're freaking out about it. Do not let it freak you out. The more it freaks you out, the harder it's going to be to complete, and it just kind of snowballs into a giant issue. Some things you can do to kind of keep yourself from freaking out. Number one is think of the absolute worst case scenario. What is the most horrible thing that could come of this if I fail? Usually for me, the idea would be that I'd feel embarrassed, and I'd have to tell people that I didn't finish. Best case scenario, though, is that you might finish a book that you actually can publish. So that's something that we don't all get done in our lives even. So the idea that you might be able to do that in a 30-day period of time and it might work seems like kind of a no-lose situation to me. The worst things I can think of happening is me having to admit to somebody that I did fail and be honest about that. But I tend to be an honest person, so I can't imagine that would be that earth-shattering to me. And then the other thing I like to think about is the outcomes of non-participation. The worst-case scenario of non-participation is that I get nothing done. I don't improve any of my writing skills. I don't get myself to a position where I have something new to work on and edit, and I just miss out on it. The best case scenario is just that I don't stress myself a little bit, but I don't typically stress out too much about writing because I tend to be rather productive. It's editing that really gets me stressed because that's where my production kind of slows down and where I tend to hit a brick wall. So I think that's a little different for everybody, but for me, writing isn't that stressful. Number two is remember that you don't have to follow other people's rules on NaNoWriMo. You don't have to do what they think you need to do. I am a pantser, and I'm watching all these YouTube videos of people who are plotting their NaNoWriMo and planning this and planning that and planning this. If I plan anything, that story is dead. Try your damnedest to make some good writing friends. NaNoWriMo is a great time and a great place to make new friends who are also writers, who understand how difficult it can be to isolate yourself, how difficult it can be to find that right word, how difficult it can be when you don't know what you're writing, and just how absolutely rewarding the whole process is every other step of the way, kind of. I really do enjoy being a writer, and I think one of the things I enjoy the most about being a writer is connecting with other writers and getting to know them and hearing how different they do things and getting to compare notes. Now, you might say to yourself that you don't have the time. You know that it's going to be hard, and so you don't really think that November's a great month for this for you, so you're just not going to participate. And while that's absolutely your prerogative and you can do whatever you please as far as NaNoWriMo is concerned, do keep in mind that there is no penalty for losing. The very worst thing that could come out of it is that you do nothing. But you could develop a writing habit that you don't have already. You could improve your writing skills. You could end up with a book that you could publish after some work. Obviously, you don't just publish a book that you wrote without editing it and stuff, but these things could happen, and if you don't participate, those things are less likely to happen. So I don't really see a problem with participating, even if you don't think you're going to complete it. Another issue I see a lot of people say is that there are so many holidays, and they're so worried about, there's holidays and the kids are off school and I have these extra things I have to do, and then there's snow days and there's all these other things. And yeah, but here's the thing. Life is kind of a bad bitch, and every day something can come up. Every day something can go wrong. Every day. There are holidays in every month, basically. You might think that April would work better for you, and then you get into April and it wouldn't work better for you. There's always going to be stuff that can get in the way. So all you can do is try now. Obviously, if something comes up, you just bail. If there's a death in the family, if you have a change of plans, if your job changes, if your kids need help, if your family needs help, if you need, it's the same as you would do with any other writing project. You would put it on the shelf and take care of your family. And that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't start, then there's really no way for you to continue. So if you don't give it a shot, you don't know what you can do. And I think it's really worth giving yourself the credit that it's probably worth it to you to try this and to do your best. But at the end of the day, the very worst case scenario is not that freaking bad. And the last reason I have that you should really consider doing NaNoWriMo, even if you think you might not have the time or you might not have the skills or it might just not work for you, is that you're the only one who can tell the story that you have inside you. Nobody can write the exact same story. Nobody can tell the exact same story. That's something that we all have to offer, and it doesn't matter who you are or what your background is, but you have something different to offer the world. One of the things I really recommend is that you consider whether or not you want to tell that story. If you really want to tell that story, I think NaNoWriMo is a great time to sit down and start doing it. Even if you write a draft in NaNoWriMo and then you trash it and you write a whole new thing some other time, it's still a step that you've taken and you've already moved in the right direction. And I really think that NaNoWriMo is a great program, and I think it's a lot of fun for everybody involved. I really do recommend that you join us and that you have a good time with all of us doing your NaNoWriMo and getting as many words as you can, whether it be 50,000, 100,000, or 10. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're trying and that you've done your best and that you're writing. And as you can see, there are lots of reasons not to do NaNoWriMo, and I'm sure you have some of your own, but I really do think it's worth giving a shot, even if you don't think you're necessarily going to do the greatest at it, and even if maybe you think that you're going to fail. I don't think that necessarily matters. Not winning Nano is not a failure in my eyes. And then I just wanted to give you guys a quick little update on Gryffindale. I am currently still putting stuff into YWriter so that I can kind of connect who's in what scenes and what's going on in those scenes and kind of walk through them. This, again, is a much different story than I've ever written before, so I'm doing a lot of different things with the editing because I've never written a fantasy, and this is a real fantasy. It is not like a hard fantasy. It's not like a D&D world or a Lord of the Rings world, but it is definitely a fantasy world, and so I have to kind of sort through different species and races and all these different things that don't exist in the real world, and I have to kind of give them life, and that is something I've never had to do before. So it's kind of an interesting situation, and it's also probably a really interesting practice, given that I am a pantser, and this is probably not terribly common for pantsers to do their world building in this way. I don't know how a pantser does their world building. If you're a pantser and you do world building, let me know down below and see if maybe I'm totally off my rocker. Well, I mean, I am off my rocker, but maybe this is one of those things that shows that I'm off my rocker. But yeah, so who knows? But I think that's it for this week. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're new here, thank you again for coming and hanging out with me for the first time. If you are a regular viewer, thank you so much for being a regular viewer. I really appreciate it. Don't forget that you are always welcome to share my videos if you enjoy them. And don't forget to comment down below if you have anything to say. I love talking to my commenters. And I thank you guys so much. And I hope you have a wonderful week and good writing. Bye. You have to lay down if you're gonna sit on my lap, though. No, I can't, like, hang out with you. I'm gonna do a video. See? You don't even fucking care. That's not how I start my videos. It's like I don't know my own intros. Try your damnedest. Ooh, I might kick my camera. I'm gonna kick my camera. This is my face. Can you? Hi. It's like my face wasn't my face. Maybe I'm a ghost.